My family stormed the stage. During my scholarship acceptance, my sister deserved recognition too. Security! Someone screamed as my mother snatched the microphone from my trembling hands. My other daughter deserves this too. Where's Amber's award? My little sister was already halfway up the stage steps, mascara streaming down her face while 300 people stared in horror. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind and tell you how we got here. Hi, I'm Kay. And this is the story of how my family destroyed the one moment that was supposed to be mine. I was 8 years old when Amber was born. And from that very first day, she became the sun our entire family orbited around. Mom left her marketing job to stay home full-time. Dad picked up weekend shifts at the hospital to cover the endless expenses. And me? I transformed into the unpaid nanny, the helper, the one who always had to understand because I was the responsible big sister. "Kay, sweetheart, can you watch Amber while I grab groceries?" Mom would say, already reaching for her car keys. It was never really a question. "I have a science project due tomorrow," I'd protest weakly. "Just for 30 minutes, honey, you're such a blessing." Those 30 minutes inevitably stretched into 3 hours, and my science project became a frantic midnight scramble. By middle school, the pattern had calcified into stone. Amber needed a reading tutor. Guess who spent every Tuesday and Thursday evening drilling her on phonics instead of attending art club? Amber wanted to try competitive dance. There went my yearbook committee funds. "We can't afford both. Kay, you understand, right?" Dad said, not quite meeting my eyes. Yet I needed was apparently negotiable. What Amber wanted was essential. Here's the thing nobody talks about when you're the overlooked child. You don't stop loving your sibling. But that love gets twisted up with resentment until you can barely recognize it anymore. I loved Amber. I also couldn't stand being in the same room with her. And Amber, she wasn't grateful for any of it. How could she be? She grew up believing the universe naturally bent to accommodate her feelings. By freshman year, she'd mastered the art of the tactical breakdown. "I can't believe you're looking at colleges in other states," she sobbed when she caught me browsing Qley's website. "You're basically abandoning me, Kay." "I'm not abandoning anyone. I'm planning for my future." "Mom!" Amber wailed, summoning our mother like a lawyer calling an expert witness. "Kay's being selfish again!" Mom appeared in my doorway within seconds, arms crossed. "What's going on?" "I'm researching colleges. That's literally all I'm doing." "Kay, you know your sister struggles with separation anxiety. Dr. Harper says we need to be mindful of her triggers. Maybe consider some excellent schools closer to home. UC Davis has a wonderful—" "Are you actually asking me to choose my college based on Amber's therapy buzzwords?" Mom's expression hardened. "I'm asking you to think about someone besides yourself for once." I stared at her, my blood turning to ice water. Someone besides myself. That's rich. Coming from the woman who'd spent the last 10 years catering to Amber's every whim while I raised myself. That night, lying in my bed, I made a decision that would change everything. If my family wouldn't support my dreams, I'd fund them myself. I'd earn every opportunity through sheer force of will. I'd escape this house even if I had to claw my way out. I just didn't realize how badly they'd punish me for succeeding. The local coffee shop, Roasted Dreams, hired me 3 days after I turned 15. The manager took one look at my application, meticulously filled out, references already contacted, and smiled. "When can you start?" "Tomorrow," I said. "Any shift you need." I worked 25 hours a week on top of school, squirreling away every paycheck into a savings account my parents didn't know existed, while Amber attended her twice-weekly therapy sessions for anxiety that mysteriously only appeared when attention shifted away from her. I was shelving books at the library while Dad drove her to sleepovers and Mom coordinated her dance recital. I was serving lattes and memorizing SAT vocabulary words during slow periods. My grades, already solid, became exceptional. I joined every club that looked good on college applications. Mock Trial, National Honor Society, the Environmental Justice Committee. I logged volunteer hours at Riverside General Hospital, shadowing nurses and dreaming of pre-med programs. "You're never home anymore," Amber complained one evening when I dragged myself through the door at 9:30, reeking of coffee grounds and exhaustion. "I'm working, building my resume." "Building your escape, you mean?" Her voice dripped with accusation. "You don't even care about us anymore." The laugh that burst out of me was harsh and humorless. "Care about you? Amber, I've spent the last 10 years caring about you. I've given up art club, yearbook, debate tournaments, Friday night football games, all so I could babysit you or cover your forgotten homework or talk you down from whatever crisis you'd manufactured that week. Don't you dare tell me I don't care." Her face crumpled in that practiced way, tears springing to her eyes like she'd turned on a faucet. "Mom, Kay's yelling at me!" The lecture I received about family bonds and setting a good example lasted 40 minutes. Dad joined halfway through, his disappointment palpable. "We raised you better than this, Kay. Family comes first. When has this family ever put me first?" The words escaped before I could stop them. Silence crashed over the kitchen. Then Dad's face flushed red. "That's enough, go to your room." I went, but I didn't cry. I was done crying over their willful blindness. College application season became an exercise in espionage. Every essay I wrote had to be composed at the library or during lunch breaks at school. I couldn't risk Amber seeing me work on them at home. She'd spiral into a jealous meltdown, and then I'd lose hours managing her feelings instead of building my future. "It's not fair," she moaned one Saturday when she accidentally glimpsed my Stanford supplemental essay on my laptop screen. "You're so much smarter than me. How am I supposed to compete with that when it's my turn?" "You're a sophomore, Amber. You have 2 full years before you apply anywhere. But everyone at school will compare me to you. The teachers, the counselors, they'll expect me to be like you, and I'm not." Her voice climbed into a familiar whine. "Mom, this is giving me anxiety." Mom's solution: I should apply to less competitive schools. There are wonderful state colleges, Kay. You don't need to shoot for the Ivy League. Think about how much pressure that puts on your sister. I applied to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Princeton, and Columbia anyway. Out of spite, maybe, but also because I'd earned the right to reach for the stars, and I refused to dim my ambitions to soothe Amber's insecurities. The acceptance letters started arriving in March. I had them sent to Roasted Dreams since I couldn't trust my family not to intercept my mail. My manager, a kind woman named Denise, who'd figured out my situation months ago, would hand them over with an understanding nod. Harvard, Yale, Qley, Stanford waitlist but with a likely letter. Full ride to the University of Texas, partial scholarships everywhere else. I kept them all hidden in my locker, savoring my victories in private because I knew, God, I knew that bringing them home would only trigger Amber's tears and my parents' disapproval. My joy was dangerous. My success was a threat. The Wellington Merit Scholarship changed everything. 5 students in the entire country. Full ride to any university, plus $40,000 for living expenses, plus a mentorship program connecting recipients with industry leaders. I found out I'd won in April, sitting in my beat-up Honda Civic in the school parking lot, staring at the email until the words blurred. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. Against every obstacle, despite zero support from home, I'd earned my freedom. I cried then, huge gasping sobs that felt like they'd been trapped in my chest for years. Not just happy tears, though there was plenty of joy. These were tears of relief so profound it physically hurt. I wouldn't have to worry about affording textbooks. I wouldn't have to work 40 hours a week to cover rent. I could just focus on becoming the person I was meant to be. The award ceremony was scheduled for May 22nd. Each recipient received 2 guest tickets. I stared at those tickets for 3 days, turning them over in my hands, debating whether telling my family was worth the inevitable drama. "You have to tell them," my best friend Natalie said over burritos at our favorite taco truck. "Kay, this is huge. This is life-changing. Maybe they'll finally see what you've accomplished. You haven't met my family. I've heard the stories, but this is different. This is national recognition. Even they can't make this about Amber." Natalie's optimism was adorable and completely misguided. I told them at dinner on a Tuesday night, dropping it casually between bites of meatloaf. "By the way, I won a scholarship. There's a ceremony on the 22nd if anyone wants to come." The silence stretched like taffy. Then Amber's fork clattered against her plate. "What kind of scholarship?" "The Wellington Merit Scholarship. It's a full ride plus living stipend." Her face did that thing it always did. that crumpling, wounded expression she'd perfected around age 12. Why didn't you tell me you were applying for scholarships? I could have applied too. You're 16, Amber. It's specifically for graduating seniors. She shoved away from the table. That's age discrimination. This whole system is rigged against younger students. Amber makes a valid point, Mom said, and I nearly choked on my green beans. These arbitrary age requirements really aren't fair to academically advanced students. Amber has a 2.8 GPA, I said flatly. Because her teachers don't accommodate her learning style. Dad jumped in. His lawyer voice activated. If she'd had the same advantages you've had. What advantages? I stood up, my hands shaking with rage and disbelief. The advantage of working 30 hours a week? Of studying at coffee shops because I can't get peace and quiet at home? Of paying for my own SAT prep because you spent that money on Amber's therapeutic horseback riding? Don't be dramatic, Kay. Mom's tone could have frozen vodka. We've provided equally for both of you. You've provided everything for Amber. You've provided expectations for me. I left the table. Behind me, I heard Amber start crying, those practiced theatrical sobs that always worked on our parents. Sure enough, Mom and Dad rushed to comfort her, their voices murmuring reassurances. I went to my room and texted Natalie. They're not coming to the ceremony. Her response came immediately. Good. You don't need their negativity. My mom and I are coming and we're bringing flowers and taking you to dinner afterward. You're going to celebrate this properly. The Wellington Merit Scholarship ceremony was held at the Grand View Hotel's Crystal Ballroom. All soaring ceilings and chandeliers. I told my family it started at 4 o'clock. It actually started at 3. I wanted at least an hour to bask in my achievement without the dark cloud of their resentment. Natalie and her mother, Patricia, filled the seats I'd reserved. Patricia had brought roses, my favorite coral-colored ones, and Natalie had somehow convinced the hotel staff to sneak us champagne. You're 18. It's legalish at a private event and you deserve to celebrate, she said, pressing a flute into my hand. You look stunning, honey, Patricia said, adjusting the honor cords draped over my shoulders. Your dress is perfect and I am so incredibly proud of you. Those words hit me like a physical force. This woman, who had no biological obligation to care about me, was prouder than my own parents had ever been. I had to excuse myself to the bathroom to fix my makeup after I started tearing up. The ceremony began right on schedule. 5 recipients, 5 stories of perseverance against odds. The Wellington Foundation president, a distinguished woman named Dr. Helena Frost, spoke eloquently about potential and drive, about students who refuse to let circumstances define their futures. Qley Morrison, she announced, and I walked onto that stage with my head held high, my heart thundering with pride. Heading to Columbia University to study biomedical engineering. Dr. Frost continued, reading from my portfolio. This remarkable young woman maintained a 4.0 GPA while working part-time and volunteering over 600 hours at Riverside General Hospital. She embodies everything the Wellington Foundation celebrates: brilliance, determination, and an unwavering commitment to using her education to serve others. The applause washed over me like warm water. I reached the microphone and began my acceptance speech, the words I'd practiced 100 times flowing naturally. Thank you to the Wellington Foundation for seeing potential in students like me. Students who don't have trust funds or legacy admissions, but who have something more valuable. Hunger. The hunger to learn, to grow, to transform our circumstances into opportunities. I was mid-sentence, talking about my dream of developing affordable medical devices for underserved communities, when I saw them. My family, an hour early, pushing through the crowd like a natural disaster. Mom's face set in grim determination. Dad looking furious, and Amber crying those signature theatrical tears. Excuse me, someone in the audience said. You can't. But Mom was already climbing the stage steps. My other daughter deserves recognition too, she shouted, her voice cutting through the ballroom like a knife. Time seemed to slow down. I watched, frozen in surreal horror, as my mother marched across the stage and ripped the microphone from my hands. Where's Amber's scholarship? Mom demanded into the mic, her voice echoing off the ballroom walls. This is discrimination! Security! Someone yelled. Amber was climbing the steps now, still crying, and Dad was right behind her. The other 4 scholarship recipients stared in shock. Dr. Frost looked horrified. And me? I just stood there watching my family destroy the one moment that was supposed to be mine. "It's not fair!" Amber sobbed into the microphone she'd wrestled away from Mom. "I'm smart too, I just haven't had the same opportunities." The ballroom erupted into chaos. 3 security guards converged on the stage. Other parents started shouting, some at my family to get off the stage. Others apparently in agreement that younger students deserved scholarships too. Dr. Frost was frantically conferring with her staff. One of the other recipients, a girl from Atlanta, had tears streaming down her face as her moment was utterly destroyed. I stood frozen at center stage, a mannequin in a nice dress, while my family staged a full theatrical production of our dysfunction for 300 strangers. Security finally got hands on Dad, who was blocking them from reaching Mom and Amber. "Don't you touch my wife!" he shouted. "We have every right to be here. Our daughter was discriminated against." "Sir, you need to leave immediately," the head of security said, remarkably calm given the circumstances. "This is what happens when you favor one child over another," Dad yelled as they escorted him toward the stage steps. The irony of that statement would have made me laugh if I wasn't dying inside. Mom went next, still clutching the microphone, still ranting about unfair advantages and age discrimination. Amber had to be physically carried down the steps, wailing like she was being dragged to prison rather than escorted out of a private event she'd crashed. The silence after they left was deafening. 300 people stared at me. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked uncomfortable, like they'd accidentally witnessed a car crash. I could see phones up recording. Great, just great. Dr. Frost appeared beside me, gently taking back the microphone. "I am so sorry, Kay. That was completely unacceptable. That was my life," I told her, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "That's why I worked so hard to get out." She squeezed my shoulder, then turned to address the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for that disruption, but I want to make something absolutely clear. Every scholarship awarded today was earned through merit alone. Our selection process is rigorous and fair, and nothing diminishes the extraordinary achievements of these 5 students. Please join me in giving them the recognition they've earned." The applause started slowly, then built to something thunderous. People stood. I saw Patricia wiping tears from her eyes, Natalie giving me a thumbs up. Somehow, impossibly, I finished my speech. The other recipients hugged me afterward, murmuring condolences and support. But I could see the pity in their eyes. I'd always be remembered as the girl whose family ruined the ceremony. The videos hit social media before we'd even left the hotel. Entitled "Family Crashes Scholarship Ceremony" was trending on Twitter within 2 hours. My phone exploded with texts and calls from relatives, from people I hadn't spoken to since middle school, from journalists asking for interviews. I turned it off and hid at Natalie's house. Patricia made hot chocolate and didn't ask questions, which was exactly what I needed. "They're getting destroyed online," Natalie said, scrolling through her phone. "Look at these comments." I didn't want to look, but part of me, the angry, vindictive part I usually kept locked away, did want to see the world finally validating what I'd known for years. So I looked. The internet was brutal. They'd found Mom's Facebook, where she'd posted a long rant about invisible disabilities and academic discrimination. Someone had screenshotted Amber's Instagram, a curated collection of shopping hauls, Starbucks runs, and party photos, and contrasted it with her claims of having no opportunities. "This is what happens when you enable a child instead of parenting them," Natalie read aloud. "The older sister deserves better. Can't believe the family had the audacity to storm the stage. That poor girl has been dealing with this her whole life." For the first time in years, I felt seen, validated. The world was finally witnessing what I'd endured in private. My phone, even turned off, had 49 missed calls when I powered it back on the next morning. One text from Dad. "You've humiliated this family. Come home immediately and fix this." I stared at that text for a long time. Then I typed back a single word. "No." That single word detonated like a bomb. Mom showed up at Natalie's house at 8 in the morning, pounding on the door hard enough to wake the neighbors. Patricia answered in her bathrobe. coffee mug in hand, looking completely unfazed by my mother's fury. "Where is she?" Mom demanded. "Kay, get out here right now!" "She's 18 years old," Patricia said calmly, blocking the doorway. "She doesn't have to go anywhere she doesn't want to go." "She's my daughter!" "Then maybe you should have acted like her mother instead of spending 18 years being her sister's publicist." Patricia's tone remained pleasant, but her words landed like slaps. "Now I'm going to ask you politely to leave before I call the police for harassment." From my spot on the stairs, hidden from view, I wanted to applaud. Mom left, but the flying monkeys began arriving within hours. Aunt Caroline called to tell me I was tearing the family apart. Uncle George texted that I should be ashamed of myself. My grandmother, Dad's mother, who'd always seemed to see through the favoritism, left a voicemail that started supportive but ended with, "But maybe you should apologize to keep the peace, sweetheart." I blocked them all, every single one. The Wellington Foundation released a statement the next day, condemning the disruption and confirming that scholarships were awarded based solely on merit. They also, and this part made me cry again, offered me additional counseling support, acknowledging the challenging family dynamics I was navigating. But Amber wasn't done. Of course she wasn't. She started a Change.org petition, "End age discrimination in academic scholarships." The description painted her as a crusader for younger students denied opportunities, a champion of fairness fighting an unjust system. The fact that she'd never shown interest in academics before apparently didn't matter. She'd found her angle, her victimhood narrative, and she was milking it for everything it was worth. "She's doing interviews," Natalie reported, showing me her laptop screen. Local news picked it up. The segment was titled "Teen Fights for Equal Access to Education." They'd interviewed Amber in our living room, Mom and Dad flanking her like protective gargoyles. "My sister got every advantage," Amber told the reporter, tears glistening perfectly on cue. "Private tutors, test prep courses, application coaches. Meanwhile, I got nothing. Now she has the scholarship and I can't even apply because of my age. How is that fair?" The lies were so blatant, so thoroughly divorced from reality that I actually laughed out loud. Then I got angry, but I didn't need to do anything. The reporter, a sharp woman named Veronica DeSantos, had done her homework. The follow-up segment aired 3 days later, and it was absolutely savage. After our initial story aired, several viewers reached out with concerns about the accuracy of Amber Morrison's claims. DeSantos said to camera, "Our investigation revealed some troubling discrepancies. They'd found my employment records from Roasted Dreams. They'd interviewed Denise, my manager, who confirmed I'd used my wages to pay for SAT prep books and application fees. They'd talked to my guidance counselor, Mr. Hammond, who went on record stating that I'd never had private tutors or coaches. In fact, he'd written recommendation letters emphasizing how I'd achieved excellence despite having minimal family support." The piece ended with DeSantos delivering a pointed conclusion. "While younger students certainly deserve support and opportunities, facts matter. Qley Morrison earned her scholarship through years of hard work and personal sacrifice, not through advantages denied to her sister. Sometimes the real story is more complicated than it first appears." My phone rang. Dad. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "You need to fix this," he said without preamble. "Call that reporter. Tell her she got it wrong. She got it exactly right. You're destroying Amber's reputation. Do you have any idea what this is doing to her? Amber destroyed her own reputation when she lied on television. That's not my fault." "She's your sister!" "And I'm your daughter. When has that ever mattered to you?" He hung up. Graduation was 2 weeks later. I almost didn't attend. Why give my family another opportunity to humiliate me? But Natalie talked me into it. "You earned that valedictorian spot," she said firmly. "You earned that walk across the stage. Don't let them take that from you too." So I went. Patricia and Natalie saved me seats far from where my family would sit. Everything was fine, until they called my name. "Qley Morrison, valedictorian, heading to Columbia University on a full scholarship." The auditorium erupted in applause. I'd become something of a local celebrity, the girl who'd escaped. As I walked across the stage, diploma in hand, I felt powerful. Then I heard Amber scream. "What about me?" she shrieked from her seat. When is it my turn? Oh God, not again. Amber, sit down, someone hissed. No, this is discrimination. I demand equal recognition. She actually ran toward the stage. My 16-year-old sister, in full view of hundreds of students and parents, tried to rush my graduation ceremony because I was getting applause. 2 teachers intercepted her before she reached the stage. Mom and Dad, instead of being mortified, stood up and started arguing with the teachers. She has every right to be recognized, Mom shouted. Ma'am, Vice Principal Rodriguez said with impressive patience. She doesn't even attend this school anymore. Oh, right, I'd forgotten. After the scholarship disaster, Amber had convinced my parents that traditional school was traumatic and demanded to be homeschooled, except Mom hadn't actually homeschooled her. She just let Amber do whatever she wanted. Security escorted them out again. The entire gymnasium watched my family get removed from my graduation. I walked off that stage with my diploma straight to Natalie's car and never looked back. The videos went more viral than the scholarship ceremony ones. Graduation girl's sister started trending worldwide. Memes were made. Amber became the internet's poster child for entitled siblings everywhere. Then the real consequences arrived. The state university rescinded Amber's early admission. Apparently, they'd seen the videos and decided she wasn't a good fit for their campus community. The online school she'd been pretending to attend dropped her for non-attendance. Turns out you actually have to log in and complete assignments. You've ruined her future! Mom screamed over the phone. She has nothing now! Nothing! She ruined her own future, I said quietly. I was just trying to live mine. Come home and fix this! I'm not coming home, ever. Then you're not welcome in this family. The words should have hurt. They didn't. I never was. I blocked their numbers after that. All of them. Patricia let me stay until college started in August. She helped me shop for dorm supplies, took me to Target for bedding and desk lamps, treated me to celebratory dinners, all the things my own mother should have been doing. You're going to do amazing things, Patricia said one evening, helping me pack string lights into a box. Not despite your family, but because you survived them. That takes incredible strength. I started at Columbia that fall. It was everything I dreamed and more. Hard, yes, but the good kind of hard, where your effort actually mattered, where your achievements were yours to keep. I made friends who celebrated my successes, professors who encouraged my ambitions. For the first time in my life, I was just Kay. Not Amber's sister, not the family scapegoat, just me. The calls stopped, but the emails continued. I filtered them to a separate folder I checked once a month, like picking at a scab. From Mom. Amber's in real therapy now. The therapist says she has trauma from your abandonment. From Dad. Your sister tried to hurt herself. I hope you're happy. From Amber. I got my GED, no thanks to you. The manipulation was transparent. They wanted me to come running back, to sacrifice my dreams on the altar of Amber's feelings again. I didn't respond. Instead, I threw myself into research. I joined the biomedical engineering lab, started work on affordable prosthetic designs. My professor nominated me for an undergraduate research award. I won. This time, I didn't tell my family about the ceremony. Junior year, their world imploded. I heard through my cousin Vanessa, who'd stayed neutral and checked in occasionally. Dad had lost his hospital job. Turns out when videos of you screaming at graduation ceremonies go viral, employers notice. Mom's lifestyle blog wasn't generating income. And Amber, now 20 years old, still lived at home, still refused to work, still expected the world to hand her things. They're losing the house, Vanessa told me over coffee. They want to know if you'll help financially. No, just like that. Just like that. They're family, Kay. Family doesn't sabotage your achievements. Family doesn't demand you shrink yourself to make others comfortable. Family doesn't storm stages to steal your moments. Vanessa didn't have a response to that. The house sold in foreclosure. They moved to a cramped apartment across town. Amber had to get a retail job. The horror. Mom went back to work in marketing. Dad found a position eventually, but nothing like what he'd had before. Meanwhile, I graduated summa cum laude, got into my dream PhD program, won a National Innovation Award for my prosthetic design, started a company with my lab partners. Every success felt like vindication. The last email I received from Amber came on my 24th birthday. No manipulation, no guilt trips, just 3 words. I see it now. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to ask what she meant, but I knew engaging would only open the door to more drama. Some bridges once burned need to stay ash. I'm 26 now. My company just secured Series A funding. We're developing prosthetics that cost a fraction of current models without sacrificing quality. I have an apartment overlooking Riverside Park, friends who genuinely love me, a partner who understands my history and never asks me to dim my light. I don't know if I'll ever speak to them again. The anger has faded into something between indifference and pity. They created their own catastrophe, one act of enablement at a time. Every time they chose Amber's comfort over my accomplishments, they built the foundation for their own downfall. So I'll ask you what I asked myself back in that auditorium, microphone shaking in my hands while my family staged their final performance. If your family demanded you fail so someone else could feel better about not trying, would you dim your light? Or would you let it burn so bright they'd have no choice but to look away? I chose to burn.